As you know, Berkshire's cash balances are an issue for some investors, especially with excess cash being in the $25 to $30 billion range the last couple of years. Berkshire having a more difficult time that has had historically reinvested in capital as quickly as it comes in. Although Berkshire did provide $3.5 billion of the $3.6 billion of cash that was used to acquire NV Energy last year, with Mid-American funding the remainder with debt, was there something that kept Berkshire from providing all of the capital for the acquisition, perhaps via intercompany debt? And on a separate note, can you provide us with some insight into the decision to allow Mid-American to retain all of its earnings, while Burlington Northern, which spent $3 billion in capital expenditures last year and is on pace to spend $5 billion this year, continues to pay a distribution to Berkshire, all while it takes on additional debt to help fund capital spending?
Yeah, Mid-America, now renamed Berkshire Hathaway Energy, we'll call it BH Energy, will have multiple opportunities, I hope, and we've seen two of them in the last 12 months, to buy other businesses. And as you noted, we spent a substantial amount of money on NV Energy, and then 2 days ago we agreed to buy transmission lines in Alberta. So we hope we will, and so far we've been able to come up with really large businesses to buy at BH Energy. That will not, at BNSF, we will spend a lot of money to have the best railroad possible, but we're not going to be buying other businesses. So we distribute substantial money out of BNSF, and we will continue to do so because it'll earn substantial money, and it can easily handle the debt that it has and will incur, whereas at Berkshire Hathaway Energy, we have pretty much the appropriate level of debt at both the subsidiary and the parent company level. So as we buy things, we need not only the retained earnings that we have, but occasionally we need some money from the shareholders. And there are three shareholders of BH Energy. Berkshire owns 90%, and then Greg and Walter Scott have the balance. And so if we make a large acquisition and we need a little more equity, we will have a pro rata subscription, which the other two shareholders are welcome to participate in, but if they decided not to, it wouldn't hurt them. They'd still have an improvement in the value of their shares. So those two companies are quite different that way. I hope that more possible deals for Berkshire Hathaway Energy come along. I don't think they will. So we may invest many billions there. We will invest billions at the railroad, but it'll all be to improve the railroad. It won't be to buy additional businesses. So far this year, if you think about it, counting yesterday, now two of these deals started last year, but we've spent $5 billion on acquisitions, roughly, and of course in the first quarter we spent another $2.8 billion on property, plant, and equipment. But we are finding things to do that tend to sop up the cash. We always will have $20 billion around Berkshire. We will never be dependent on the kindness of strangers. It didn't work that well for Blanche Dubois, but in any event, we don't count on bank lines. We don't count on anything. There will be some time in the next 100 years, and it may be tomorrow, and it may be 100 years from now, and nobody knows, where we cannot depend on anybody else to keep our own strength and to maintain our operations. And we spent too long building Berkshire to have that one moment destroy us. I mean, we lent money, as you probably know, to Harley-Davidson at 15%, and we lent it at a time when short-term rates were probably 0.5%. Well, Harley-Davidson is a fine company, but it, like Goldman Sachs and General Electric and a bunch of other companies, one of the Tiffany's, they needed, when you need cash, it's the thing, it's the only thing you need, and it's because other people aren't coming up with it. I've always said that, cash is, available cash or credit is a lot like oxygen, that you don't notice the lack of it 90% of the time, but if it's absent, it's the only thing you notice, and we don't want to be in that position. So we will keep $20 billion. We will never go to sleep at night worrying about any event that's taken place that could hurt our ability to keep playing our game. And above $20 billion, we'll try to find ways to invest it intelligently. And so far, we've generally done it. I mean, right? We've always had something above that, but we've spent a fair amount of money so far this year. We'll probably spend more later in the year. So far, I feel we can get the cash out at reasonable returns. We never feel a compulsion to use it, though, just because it's there. Charlie?
I think we're very lucky to have these businesses that can employ a lot of new capital at very respectable rates. And if earlier in the history of Berkshire we didn't have such automatic opportunities, and now that we're so affluent, we really are way better off having these opportunities. It's a blessing. I mean, who would want to get rid of Mid-American and the Burlington Northern Railroad? Nobody in his right mind. I mean, we love the opportunity to invest more capital intelligently in a world where short-term interest rates are 0.5% or lower.
And we love the opportunity to go in with 3G and Heinz and
Yes.
employ significant capital. We'll get the chances to use capital. Eventually, compound interest will catch up with us. And it certainly dampened things, but it hasn't delivered its final blow yet. Station 6.
Está buena la pregunta porque a veces hacemos unas reglas que son muy rígidas en nuestra mente por precisamente agarrar, no sé, el nuevo paper del premio Nobel que dice que es que la pregunta que hace esta persona es otra vez de Morningstar, y entonces le cuestiona por qué tiene tanto dinero en efectivo sin aplicar, porque es como una regla de dedo de un contador o un financiero. Pero él más bien habla en función de que cada uno de los negocios tiene características específicas que requieren una cantidad determinada de flujo para usarse, pero no por sus características específicas él se va a poner en una posición donde necesite recurrir a una tarjeta de crédito o a líneas de crédito, porque siempre es un dolor muy grande tener que conseguir un efectivo que no tienes a la mano. Entonces dice, nosotros nunca nos vamos a deshacer. Él pone ahorita un monto de $20,000 millones. Esto es 10 años antes del tamaño que ahora tiene, que es mucho más grande. Entonces quizás la conversación muchos años después no va a ser de $20,000 millones en efectivo, sino podría ser 40,000. Entonces no es una regla de dedo, pues no es una regla, es más bien como un sentido común de lo que estás haciendo y realmente apreciar el efectivo como parte de la estructura que tienes de inversión. Pero no, o sea, como que no sé si se fijan que ellos ponen más énfasis en sus decisiones de colocación de capital respecto al valor intrínseco de cada uno de los negocios que a un número fijo contable.